but we'll get it together, guys. Sanders said he's confident he will make the Browns' 53-man roster despite struggling in Saturday's preseason game, adding that he eventually wants to be a player to be able to change a franchise. Sanders started the second half Saturday against the Rams, completing just 3 of 6 passes for 14 yards. He was sacked 5 times and led the Browns to only 1 first down in his 5 series under center. Mary Kay Cabot asked Browns coach Kevin Stefanski about the persistent narrative that he's sabotaging Shadeur Sanders' career. Take a listen to this.
Obviously, I don't concern myself with outside type of things, but I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better, and that's what we'll stay committed to, and that's what's important to me.
Hall of Famer Kurt Warner stopped short of blaming Stefanski, but weighed in on the rookie quarterbacks in their preseason finale by saying, I was really looking forward to the competition between Dillon Gabriel and Shadeur Sanders in the last preseason game. I know it plays out like this sometimes, but a bummer that both didn't have the same opportunities to make plays. Dillon Gabriel played well again, but had good opportunities to make plays. Shadeur Sanders didn't have those same opportunities, so it was hard to make much of an assessment. Stephen A., coming to you on this, does Stefanski deserve criticism for how he's handled this quarterback competition?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. You can disagree with him all you want to, but this is a two-time coach. This is a two-time coach of the year. The man knows what he's doing. I would have liked to have seen Shadeur Sanders, in the two-minute drive. I would have liked to see him be in position to be on the field to go drive them down the field and for that game-winning field goal. I get that part, and I understand the skepticism that comes with it. It's a legitimate question. But to ask the question, there was one thing. To accuse this man of sabotaging Shadeur Sanders is another thing entirely. I think that's a bit extreme. I don't think there's anything about Kevin Stefanski's character that makes us or puts anybody in a position to definitively say such a thing. And then we have to take into reality what we saw. Shadeur Sanders looked very, very bad. Very bad. There's no way around that against third and fourth stringers. What you talk about, 11 dropbacks, 5 sacks, just 3 completions, 4 3-and-outs in 5 series, 1 fumble recovered by a teammate. Those were the numbers, but some of the things that they talked about in terms of him being in college, guys, you know this better than me, both you and Ryan and I defer to y'all, obviously. But it's one of those things where holding on to the football a little bit too much, taking that 24-yard sack, holding on to the ball, leaving a clean pocket, some of the things that they complain about in college, that's what we saw. It was nothing like what we saw with him against Carolina. And so I think when you perform that badly, it doesn't mean that it's the end. It doesn't mean he can't play in the NFL. It means that he had a very, very bad afternoon. But it was a very bad afternoon. And because it was a very bad afternoon, one could easily argue that Kevin Stefanski was trying to save him from himself. Whether you agree or disagree, I think that he's in a position where he can make that argument legitimately, and it would be very difficult to argue with him based on what we saw.
RC, does he deserve criticism, Stefanski?
Well, he deserves criticism to me for not allowing Shadeur Sanders to finish the game. And the reason he deserves criticism is because part of that development is watching a young quarterback deal with adversity and how does he rebound from it? How does he react? And if you knew that Snoop Huntley wasn't going to be on the team this week, which I'm sure they did, there's no reason to say we need to get him reps. There's no fairness in football, right? And favor isn't fair. And so from that standpoint, I believe he does. But to say that he's sabotaging this young player is absolutely false. The problem is we saw Shadeur Sanders one way headed into the draft. We evaluated him as a late first round, early second round pick. And so we expected a level of elation from Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns that they got someone we saw as being a tier above where he was drafted in the 5th round. And we expected them to treat him in a way that we may have found a diamond in the rough. Let's give him every opportunity to be the starter so we can build a team around him with 2 first-round picks next year. But that's not how Kevin Stefanski sees him. That's not how Andrew Berry sees him. The Cleveland Browns organization sees him. They see him as a 5th-round pick. So he got the reps that 5th-round picks get. They see him as a player that's a developmental player. So he played alongside other players that are developing. When you're Shadeur Sanders, you have to do what Russell Wilson was able to do the same year Matt Flynn was acquired by the Seattle Seahawks. You have to show so far above and beyond that you deserve to be on the field that they can't keep you off. And Shadeur Sanders didn't do that.
Okay. To say that Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are sabotaging Shadeur Sanders is not only false, it's wildly disrespectful and disingenuous. So you mean to tell me, and this is not me taking shots at anybody who said it, but you mean to tell me that a guy who has dedicated his life and his career to the game and the development of players has chosen Shadeur Sanders as the one to sabotage? The son of an NFL legend, the game that Kevin Stefanski has dedicated his life to be a part of, he's going to choose that guy? Do you guys know Kevin Stefanski? Have you ever spent time with Kevin Stefanski and gotten to know the guy? I have. He's a 10. He's not going to do that. Andrew Berry is a 10. Tommy Reese, good dude. These guys are not sabotaging Shadeur Sanders, let alone anybody. And also, they are so committed to developing everybody that, with respect, Shadeur's development isn't more important than the backup right guard's development or Dylan Gabriel's development. Shadeur didn't play well. He played good against Carolina. He didn't play well. I'll sit here and have a conversation about the 2-minute drill because I can see that one. Yeah. I don't think him playing the 2-minute drill erases kind of what happened in the game because the game wasn't great. And I texted Kurt Warner after Kurt sent out the text. I said, the opportunities, yes, I would. There are some moments when you sit there and go, man, no one's open or protection's not good. But there also is the opportunity for Shadeur to do something that he didn't do a ton in college. Throw it away. Get rid of it. Don't run around. Don't take a sack. Because that would have been growth. Yeah. There was regression rather than progression. The sabotaging thing has to go away. It's lazy, it's immature, it's disingenuous to the human and the person. Well, I think, forget the football.
And I know
coach.
we got to get to Stephen A. I think it's the entire process that makes people lean toward the sabotage narrative, right? It is the belief.
Accumulation.
It is the belief that we felt he should have been drafted earlier. And if you listen to Mel Kiper, Stephen A. Smith, even Dan Orlovsky, we all expected that Shadeur Sanders would be an earlier pick, right? So at first, it was even a question of collusion. And then now you look at the way that the quarterback competition plays out within camp. It plays out to the Cleveland Browns as it should play out when I have a veteran who I expect to start. I have a guy I drafted in the 3rd round and another that was drafted in the 5th round. But to us, we're watching Shadeur Sanders as this player we expected to go early, as a player we believe has a higher ceiling than maybe the Cleveland Browns.
Our goggles.
Right, and so it's not necessarily the vacuum of just this game. I do believe, as Molly said, it's the accumulation of acts that makes people question that. But I agree with you. To say that they would sabotage a young player is not something I agree with. But also, you mentioned the fact that why would they sabotage an NFL Legends player? I think that's part of it, too. People do feel that Deion Sanders' connection to Shadeur plays a part in how his children have been treated.
We'll bring Stephen A. in, but both things can be true, right? Yeah. It's irresponsible to say that, but at the same time, it's the accumulation of events. It's not all falling, of course, on Kevin Stefanski. Stephen A.?
It was incredibly irresponsible. That's why I started off saying what I'm saying. I certainly can understand any kind of skepticism about him not letting Shadeur Sanders finish that 2-minute drill. But to sit up there and look at a 2-time coach of the year who's never had that kind of reputation and automatically attach the word sabotage to him when it came to Shadeur Sanders, that's problematic. And it's great that all three of us agree, and we're really interested in pointing that out. But we also need to point this out as well. Just like you guys just articulated, particularly as it pertained to primetime Deion Sanders. That may be one of the very reasons I'm talking about outside of his talent that he fell to the 144th overall pick because of moments like this. The second you make a decision about him, if it's something that the masses out there don't agree with, no matter how ill-informed and amateur they are in dissecting what's transpiring, nevertheless, that kind of noise is going to be put out there unfairly and unnecessarily, and that's the kind of stuff that teams may have wanted to avoid during the draft, which is why they could have potentially passed on the quarterback. That's something to take into consideration as well.
Do you believe Shadeur will start at some point this season?
No, I don't, unless guys go through injuries. We talked about this. I don't think that's going to happen just because we also have to understand this team watches this player every day in practice, every single day in practice. And so there was one preseason game, body of work, Carolina, really good. One preseason game against the Los Angeles Rams, really bad. Those are what the public's viewpoint is. And then they see him every day in practice. I don't think he's going to start unless Joe Flacco falls flat on his face and gets hurt. And then I think Dillon Gabriel should be the number 2 quarterback unless he falls flat on his face and or gets hurt. And then what they do with Kenny Pickett, I would imagine they have him as the 3rd, and Shadeur is like that 4th that they're trying to develop.
They're keeping all 4 on the 53-man
yeah, so
roster.
Unless someone gets hurt or there's just complete disaster performance-wise by the other 3, I don't think he gets on the field.
Here's the sad part about what we saw this weekend. That may be the only time we see Shadeur Sanders on the NFL field this year. That will be our lasting memory, unless all of those dominoes fall, Dan, the way that you just articulated. Yeah. And based on what we saw him do against Carolina, we were excited about the prospect of him potentially being the QB too, because Kenny Pickett obviously was hurt. You know, you felt that he outplayed Dillon Gabriel in the first game, you know, even though Dillon Gabriel went against the Eagles and he went against the Carolina Panthers the week before, acquiring that oblique injury or what have you. At the end, the bottom line is this would be our lasting memory if he doesn't play this year. And that was something that I was hoping would not happen for him.
Shadeur Sanders never starts a game for the Cleveland Browns, not only this season, but for the rest of his career, unless everybody else gets hurt, unless everybody else falls on this face.
That's a hot take.
I believe they have made their decision on Shadeur Sanders, and that decision could have been made pre-draft. That decision could have been made in OTAs in minicamp. That decision could have been made in training camp. But we also have to be fair to Dillon Gabriel. When Shadeur Sanders is in any quarterback room, it doesn't matter if he could be one of the 32. It matters, can he be number 1 in his room? And in the rookie competition, based on what we saw play out in preseason games, Dillon Gabriel is now, in my opinion, ahead of Shadeur Sanders in development.
Interesting. Browns quarterbacks last year, worst QBR in the NFL, 35.